A horse walks past a red wheelbarrow without so much as a glance. 2 minutes later, it walks back past that same wheelbarrow, stops dead, and spins away snorting. The rider huffs, gives the rope an impatient tug, and calls it stubborn, a horse testing her, picking its moment to act up. It isn't stubbornness, and the horse isn't being difficult with her. That moment is a small clue about how a horse's mind actually works, and almost everyone reads it backwards. Over the years, people have built 7 different ways of understanding horses, stacked like rungs on a ladder. Most people never climb past the 2nd rung, and the 7th is where nearly everything you assume falls apart. The first 6 rungs all study a single horse's head. The 7th stops doing that, and it only lands once you've climbed the rest. Level 1 is the version most of us meet first. The horse obeys. Be the boss, the saying goes. Be the alpha, and the horse falls in line behind you. That idea came out of 1970s horse training, not from anyone watching real wild herds. Being in charge and being followed are 2 different things, and folk wisdom quietly glued them together. A rank order in a herd is real, but it is narrow. It settles who eats first, who takes the shaded corner, who backs away at the water trough. It does not decide who the herd follows when the whole group moves off across a field. Being boss of the hay pile is not the same as being the leader. We dug into that gap in our video on the lead mare, so hold on to it, because it comes back at the very top. So people drop the word obey and land on the next rung. The horse simply reacts. Press with your leg and it moves over. Pick up the rein and it slows. Pure reflex, nothing more. That's closer to the truth, but it misses the part that's really doing the teaching. Most of what a trained horse does comes down to pressure and release. You add a little pressure, and the instant the horse gives the right answer, you take it away. The release is the lesson. Not the pressure, the release. The horse isn't reading your intentions or trying to please you. It's following the pattern of pressure that stops. Which is why timing is everything. Release a heartbeat too late, and you've rewarded the wrong move instead. It's still reacting, but it's learned reacting, and that word, learned, is the next rung up. The next 4 rungs are less a staircase and more 4 windows into the same mind. They don't sit neatly on top of one another. Each just shows a different side of what a horse can do. Level 3 is where horses start to look genuinely clever. They learn, and they remember. Their long-term memory is excellent. Horses have remembered things they were taught years earlier, in some tests close to a decade. But here's the catch almost no one expects. What a horse learns is welded to where it learned it. A cue it knows perfectly in the arena can vanish the moment you ask for it out in the field. The lesson didn't fade. It's just tied to the place, the handler, even the way the horse was standing. So a horse that clearly knows something in one spot may need to be taught it again in the next. And that wheelbarrow from the very start? Here is what was really going on. When a horse meets something new or alarming, it tends to look at it with its left eye. The left eye feeds the right side of the brain, the side that handles fear and surprise. Walking one way, the wheelbarrow sat in the calm eye. On the way back, it landed in the other one. And to that side of the brain, the side doing the worrying, it felt like something it hadn't fully checked. The horse recognized the object perfectly well. What changed was which half of its brain was in charge. Level 4, horses don't only react to right now, they run a quiet forecast of what's about to happen. Mostly it's a forecast of who is around them. In one clever experiment, horses watched a familiar friend walk behind a barrier. Then, from a hidden speaker, researchers played the whinny of a completely different horse. The horses whipped their heads around and stared, longer and harder than usual. They had expected one particular individual, and the wrong voice broke that prediction. So a horse holds a running picture of its world, face matched a voice, and notices the second it stops adding up. This is short-range prediction, a few seconds ahead, not a horse planning out its afternoon. Level 5 is communication, and it flows in both directions. A horse's face can pull 17 separate expressions, a range in the same league as some primates. Those faces aren't noise. Horses read them in each other and they read them in us. They can tell whether you're paying attention to them, and they drift toward the person who is. In one study, horses were shown a photo of a person's face, either angry or friendly. Hours later, they met that same person in the flesh, now wearing a blank, neutral expression. The horses that had seen the angry photo stayed noticeably warier of that exact person. They hadn't just read the emotion, they remembered whose face it belonged to. This is reading and remembering, though, not language. There are no words, nothing strung into sentences. Level 6 is where a horse stops looking like a responder and starts looking like a chooser. Norwegian researchers taught horses to touch 3 symbols on a board. One meant blanket on, one meant blanket off, and one meant leave things as they are. All 23 horses learned it, and then something better happened. They asked correctly for the weather, blanket on when it was cold and wet, off once the sun came out. That's a horse weighing how it feels and then telling a person what it wants done about it. It's a single clean study of 23 horses, but it's careful work, and it holds up. And notice where deciding starts to pull us, because choices don't stay locked inside one horse. Which brings us to the 7th rung, and the thing every rung below it missed. Every level so far studied one horse's head, learning, predicting, communicating, deciding, all of it inside a single animal. But a horse was never meant to be understood one at a time. A horse's mind evolved for life in a group, and it only fully makes sense as part of one. So the deepest level isn't a smarter single horse, it's the herd. Watch a herd decide where to go, and you'll find no commander handing out orders. Any horse can start a move, and the others choose whether to follow it. The decision belongs to the group, not to one brain out in front. Even a stallion usually travels at the back, holding the group together rather than leading it. Emotion travels through a herd the same way, horse to horse and fast. Put a calm, experienced horse beside a nervous one crossing something scary, and the nervous horse's heart rate drops. Calm is contagious, and you can measure it in the beat of a heart. Alarm spreads by the same route, by copying, not by command. One horse bolts and the rest are already gone. For a few seconds, a threat turns the whole herd into something like a single nervous system. There's nothing mystical about it and no shared mind, just bodies copying bodies faster than thought. And there's a safety in numbers that's more literal than it sounds. In any prey herd, while some heads are down grazing, others are up and watching. The bigger the group, the less each horse has to scan, while the herd as a whole almost never stops watching. Spotting danger stops being one animal's job and becomes something the group does together. So the real answer was never one clever horse, it's the herd. And once you see that, a handful of things change at the barn. Want to get a nervous horse past something frightening? Don't pair it with a second anxious horse feeding the fear. Bring one calm, seasoned companion instead, and let that steadiness spread to the nervous one the way calm really does. Watch your own nerves too, because a horse reads whether you're tense and remembers that it was you. And when a cue falls apart in a new field, don't call the horse stupid. Teach it again, right there, in that spot. Next time a horse balks at a wheelbarrow one way and ignores it the next, you won't call it stubborn. You won't get impatient either. You'll know exactly which rung you're standing on, and you'll reach for the next one. That's the whole point of this ladder. Every rung you climb, you read horses a little better. Subscribe and let's keep climbing together.